Good morning. I'm Liz. I'm one half of the team at Rising Tide Women. Lindsay should be on shortly. And for those of you who don't know us, what we do is we support families through pregnancy all the way from conception, as we'll be talking about today, conception through pregnancy, birth, postpartum. We usually say the first year postpartum, but really, like, you got us as long as you need us. Um, we do prenatal classes of, basically what you need. We really love to customize our classes. We do have, hi Lindsay, I'm going to get you on camera here. We do a small group class coming up in Norwell on November 18th. Hi Lindsay.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
Good. I was just mentioning our upcoming class in Norwell on November 18th.
I cannot wait.
It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be.
Yeah, we have a very few number of spots available. So if you are interested, go ahead and I would get on that right away because there's not very many spots available.
Yeah, it's one of those things like I get it. We're all busy. We're all like, you know what? I'll get to that. I'll get to that. But I have a feeling everything's just going to get snatched up right at the end, and we don't want
Yes.
anyone missing out. And we don't. If you've worked with us, if you know us, um, or just like what you've gathered from hanging out on our page, we're pretty laid back. We don't have a strict, like, you need to take this class at a certain amount of weeks. I mean, we want you, you know, around 32 weeks ish, but talk to us. Let us know. Like, if this is the only time you can do it, I suggest you do it because there are little bonuses when you take our class. It's not like a one and done kind of thing. You're kind of stuck with us. And
In
the
the best way.
in the best way, yeah. But the support will continue.
Yeah.
So it's a little early. You're still going to get great
Yeah.
information and follow up care with us.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So we'll post in the comments a link to that event and a link to where you can register. Um, so we're pretty excited about that. So Lindsay does such amazing birth support. Um, we both do postpartum doula work. So some people don't actually know about this. So we do postpartum doula support where we come to your house and like help with whatever you need when you have a baby. It's amazing. I wish
Yeah.
that I had known about this when my twins were babies because I needed it.
Yeah, yeah, and people will say like, I've got great support, I've got great family, I've got all these people that are going to come in, and I think that's super. As long as everybody isn't just wanting to hold the baby when you want to hold the baby, maybe if people can throw a load of laundry on for you or bring some food, restock your cabinets a little bit, do some things around the house, that's great. If you're feeling like, wow, the people in my circle probably would just want to sit and talk to me and I don't feel like doing that, hire a postpartum doula, hire us. We are fun, we are very loving, we're very educated. We have great resources for the things that we can't always handle. And we just have a really lovely time with our clients doing whatever. I mean, I have walked dogs because that is what the family needed, and they were having guilt about the dog. So show me where the leash is, show me the scene, I'll go do it.
Yeah.
We want to feel incredible.
Yep. I actually brought my dog to someone's house one time so that the dogs could play in the fenced-in backyard while I did a consult. And the family had asked me to, and it was so fun.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just it. We want you to be able to relax and everything. So yes, we do postpartum support, and in a few weeks, we'll be talking all about postpartum support. And you know, you can always reach out to us and ask us any questions. Today, though, because we're kind of circling back around, so every week we talk about a different kind of like part of becoming a parent. So we usually have, you know, we cycle through pregnancy, birth, lactate, you know, breastfeeding, feeding, and then postpartum. So we're back to the pregnancy part, and I'm really excited about today's conversation.
Yes. Um, uh-oh. Okay.
Am I
Like,
here?
oh no, did we freeze?
Sorry,
Yeah.
I had a phone call. It's okay.
Okay. Um, yeah, and also actually before we start, I have to just say today's Lindsay's birthday. So, Lindsay, happy birthday.
Oh, yay!
I'm gonna be like texting you and celebrating you from afar all day.
It's fun. It's really it's been a fun morning so far.
Good.
So yes, thank you. But talking about these kinds of things, you know, when I noticed that we were gonna jam on my birthday, I was like, that makes it. Thank you, Robin. I'm like, that makes me feel, yes, Mom. I hope, and happy birthday day to my mom, Nan Coleman Gagney, because she's a rock star for getting me here. The stories I do hear, it was not necessarily easy. However, she rocked it, and here I am. So thank you, Mom. Thank you, Crystal. Oh my God, I miss you, and I love you too. Um, okay, so let's talk about pregnancy
Yes.
and when you find out you're pregnant, and that pregnancy is, you know, confirmed that it sure is growing a baby in there. Um, what do you do next?
Yeah. I so clearly remember that moment of like you know like I peed on the stick and I was like, well, now what? Like,
Yeah, exactly. And the same the same here. I didn't know what to do. I was like, do I call the doctor? Do I call my husband? Do I call my closest friend? Like I remember standing in my house alone, just kind of like, okay, now I'm with this little person. Like, where do I go from here?
yeah. Yeah. And I think it's, and for me it was a surprise. So the first time, so I was kind of like I did a lot of deep breathing of like, oh my God.
Yeah, you had a more breathing ahead of you.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I think for most people, sort of the protocol is like they find out they're pregnant and then they call a care provider. So they call their local OB's office or somebody to like make an appointment and confirm, which I think is hilarious because like the drugstore tests are pretty accurate, but like
I know.
somehow we still need a
No.
doctor to
And I
be like,
think that
yes,
only because until the doctor says, you know, you're pregnant. And I mean that's kind of the nursing in
yeah,
me. You'll see it kind of come out here and there. And I apologize. But those were the things that, you know, we were always those boxes that we
yes.
were checking off.
And it's for charting. I mean, you can't chart a pregnancy if you haven't confirmed it. So like it makes sense. But
Yeah.
I just always think it's kind of
Well,
a
we
funny
know.
concept.
Yeah, and we also know that you guys probably all knew you were pregnant even before you peed on a stick.
Yeah. Like that's why
Many
you
of
did it.
yeah, that's why they do it. Yes. Um, we were planning this, so I was, trying to figure things out. Um, so yeah, and just to reassure you guys, like the doctor or the midwife or whoever you're seeing for your your care before you become pregnant, they don't have to be the first person you call. Okay, like take a breath, take a moment. If it's your best friend that comes to mind first, like that's okay. There are no rules here. If it's your partner and you've been trying for a real long time, or this is a surprise, or whatever's going on, let them know. but just take a second and feel those feelings, because they're varying feelings at the time, and see where you're at and who it's best to talk to next, because depending on who you call, you're going to get different kind of congratulations or information, or they're going to tell you the next steps. And you know that Liz and I are extremely protective of your feelings and how you share very personal information. You may not want to tell anyone for a day.
Yeah.
That's okay too. It's
Yep.
big news. It's big news, no matter if it was you've been planning it, not planning it. There's a lot of life situations going on when you figure this out. But we do want you to get good care and good support.
Yeah. And so I think that's really important to think about too, because so often, like, that's like one of the early phone calls you make is to a care provider. And you just kind of are like, well, if you don't already have one lined up, you're kind of like, oh, well, I have, sometimes it's your primary care doctor, but, for a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, I'll just go to the local OB's office.
Right.
And we just want you to know that you have choices. Like finding your care provider, finding a care provider that is right for you is such a big deal. This is like a soapbox issue for us. I like most American women do more research when they buy a vacuum cleaner than they do when they're deciding who's going to deliver their baby. And that's not like to shame anyone, like, because
No,
I remember that feeling of like, oh, well, I mean, all OBs are going to do the same thing. They're all going to do the right thing,
I
right?
just want to be, like,
Huh.
just get a happy mom, happy baby.
Yeah, but it's like I didn't really think about the fact that like doctors are people, which should be obvious in retrospect, but like they're like people and they have different opinions, and like the right thing to do in each situation it's not like this straight path that you just have to follow. It's like everything is really murky and everybody has their own opinions and their own threshold for discomfort and all of that, including doctors.
Yes. Yes, some will go right along with certain plans, and some are like, oh, we don't do that for whatever reasons. Okay,
Yeah.
like let's not. I don't want to get into that. So let's say first steps after finding out that you are pregnant, um, and you've had your moment and you've had your breaths and you've told your important people in your life. Um, it is a good idea to reach out to a medical care provider as soon as you can. And then underneath that, you have choices within
So many
that.
choices.
Um, and one quick reminder, if anyone is taking notes right now, jot this down. You can change your care provider at any time. You can
Yes.
change the person. You can go from an OB to a midwife. You can go from a OB midwife office to a home birth. We support you and your choices and who is taking care of you. You need to feel safe. In order to have the birth that you want, you need to feel safe. You can change your mind at any time. If you're
Yeah.
having trouble wrapping your head around that, give us a call.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's so important. And I think so much of our experience is wrapped up in this like conditioning to be a good girl, a good patient, to be nice. And like so many, I can't tell you how many times, I know you've heard it too, where a mom is like, I'm just not really jiving with my care provider. Like we have different ideas of how we want this birth to go. And you know, but I feel bad. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings by
Right.
switching. And I'm always like, I'm all for protecting people's feelings. I don't think we should be trampling other people's feelings.
Yeah.
Um, but like, let's weigh those two things, like your safety and comfort with your care provider at a really vulnerable time in your life versus like their potential hurt feelings that probably won't be hurt because that's
Right,
the job.
right, right.
Like,
They've got more, yeah, there are more people coming in, than are going out. So they'll be fine.
yeah,
They'll um and you do like personalities need to match up. Just like, you're hiring a doula and everybody is like, I really want to make sure like our personalities match up. This is a really important time in my life.
yeah,
The person who is ultimately responsible for your care and safety, you need to feel comfortable with that person. Now, I know there are probably people out there saying, well, who knows if that doctor's going to be on that day, or that midwife, or, anyone. Like, I don't know
yeah,
any of the people that are going to be in there, so I'm just going to kind of like go with it. You can sample as many care providers within a practice as you want. And if you go through all of them and you're like, I really don't feel comfortable with any of them, you need to switch practices. And that's when it's good to have people like doulas um, on speed dial so that you can say, like, this isn't working out. Do you have any other offices that you know of that you can recommend? I'm in a tough spot here,
yeah,
or this isn't working for me at all. I'm curious about home birth. Believe me, we got names that we will give you,
yeah,
and um and support you through that. It's hard. It's really vulnerable. We only want
yeah.
the best, and we want the best for you. And that means you got to start off with a care provider who's truly going to listen to you and honor your wishes. And even if your wishes seem like something that's out of their wheelhouse, then maybe it's something they can at least hear you out on and maybe help you find the support that does work for you.
Yeah, and that's, I think that that's like, it's so important. And we talk about this right at the beginning because so many people connect with a care provider at the beginning, and it's just kind of inertia that carries them through with this care provider. And often that's fine, like a lot of times they're a wonderful care provider and you've lucked into them, and that's great. And there's nothing wrong with staying with them. But I think that this early pregnancy time is a I'm gonna start sitting directly on top of the router when we do these.
That just sounded so funny. Um,
um,
you're, oh, there you are. Okay. So going right back to it. Yes. Mm-hmm.
um, but I think like it's so important to just be asking these questions, and like many, many times people who are newly pregnant, you already know a lot of what you want. And so it's really great to be able to go into that first appointment and say, hey, I am thinking that I want an unmedicated birth, or I'm thinking that I want this kind of birth. Um, the question I like to have people ask is, how many of your patients have that kind of birth? You know,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just this like, oh, do you support that? Because it's very easy to be like, yeah, 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 yeah. But like just to say like, how often have you done that? Like if
Right.
you want, like if you're like, I want a dolphin assisted birth, and they're like, I've never done that before, because nobody does, it's not a thing. Uh, like,
What? What do you mean?
have you been to a dolphin assisted birth?
I mean, I can't share details, but I'm gonna tell you, like, it's crazy.
Never say never. I mean,
No,
just
no, you will never know if I've been to a dolphin-assisted birth, but
dolphin doulas. It's up and coming. It's
they're gonna put me out of business. I'm gonna like, sheesh.
the dolphin competition.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Um, but I mean, like,
Um,
if they've never done that, that's not the right care provider for you, if that's what you want.
right, and it doesn't always have to be a hard no. Like, oh, you know what? I mean, let's hope that the care provider you're talking to has at least, been with one medicated birth. I hope it's not that rare. But you can have that conversation with them that like this is what you want, and what are they willing to learn or do, and I've also seen a lot of really heard a lot of stories through our clients, where care providers do come around and they do educate themselves on something that they maybe didn't really know a lot about, and things begin to soften, which is really nice. And then it gives our clients that sense of being back in control
Hmm.
and in charge of their birth and their body. And I always like those moments are so incredible because
Yeah.
when it starts off like a hard no, which we all know, like you can then like go find somebody else or you know
Yeah.
do your thing within a safe way. Um, but it is really nice when care providers learn a little bit more or um, come to some sort of an understanding and peace
Yeah.
with clients. That right there, someone may be like hell bent on, I don't know, let's just say an unmedicated birth and things are just going a certain way where like there's got to be some sort of intervention,
Yeah.
but when there is some give and take on both sides and everybody comes to an agreement together, peace is restored, and that
Yeah.
birthing can come away from their birth feeling so much better. If there are any care providers out there listening right now, like it makes such a difference. And we know that you know that and you're doing what you can, but like it truly, truly impacts the rest of their life. And that's huge. That's um so step one, find a care provider. Um and if you don't know anyone, you need to reach out to people and find out like who they recommend, who they really like. There's also the question of, and you can also change your mind almost at any point for this too, home birth versus hospital or birth center birth.
Yeah. And some of
Another
this,
to consider.
yeah, and some of this is going to be around access. Like what is in your area? What are the providers available in your area? So you're going to want to, ask around, um,
Yeah,
because
do research.
yeah, home birth is not legal in every state, which is crazy to me. But so I think like you're going to have to look at your options where you are, and if you're in a really rural area, there may only be one local provider, you
Right.
know. So
I know. I being where we are here in Massachusetts,
we're a little
I tend
spoiled.
to, we have all sorts of options right here. So they're all at the ready and care providers galore. Yes, that is such a great point, but please do your research.
Yeah.
There are always ways to deal with any
Hmm.
situation. Liz and I are extremely um, optimistic people and really hard workers
That's a
and
good way
say
to put
like, well, we can deal with this, like
it.
there's a way to get what you want,
Yeah.
because it's really important. So don't just think like, oh, this is all I have. Like, is it really? Like we can figure this one out together.
Yeah. And even if it
But
is, then like,
yeah,
how can we work with that? Can we get you the
that
right support? Can we,
yeah,
because I think that that's big to really, I have this quote at my and the in my email signature that says if you don't know your options, you don't have any. Um, and it's really true.
it is really true. And like if that's the first time you're hearing that, like sit with it. Listen to what it really says. Like you
Yeah.
have options. We want you to always know that you always have options. There's a way to do almost everything. So yeah, you need to think about care providers.
Hmm.
You need to ask around. You if home birth is something that is interesting to you, or not at all, but maybe down the road, we've had people switch, which is really exciting because it really feels like they're flexing their muscles when it comes to their options, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Um, get to know the locals. Also consider hiring a doula and a birth team. Um, this is, we're gonna kind of plug ourselves here, but please don't forget to at least give the thought
Yeah.
to hiring a doula, whether it's for your birth or if you want to set up your postpartum care while you're still pregnant. We get hired all the time very early on into someone's pregnancies. They may know exactly the kind of birth they're going to most likely have, or if they know that they're going to have a cesarean birth. They set up their postpartum care immediately.
Yeah.
You can have both too. You can absolutely hire both, which is also super fun when we get to continue that support for people.
Yeah.
And Liz does scheduled cesarean births, which is
Yeah.
really exciting. So you can have it all. Um, but people who set up their support early on, you're first of all you're gonna get us, which is always
Yeah.
exciting, and we don't like having to turn anyone away. But think about hiring a doula. Find out what that really means. Give us a call. Send us an email, even if we're not in your area. We know people all over
Yeah.
countries and stuff. Like we can get you some names to at least help you on your way. Doing kind of that like long distance doula work. I love that. Like
Kind of love it.
research and seeing who else is out there and reaching out to people. I love
Yeah.
that. But yes, we do feel that hiring a doula early on is really important.
Yeah, and I think it's great too because then you have that person you can, kind of get in touch with if you have kind of a non-medical question or you just need a little support. And we've every once in a while we get a client who um and it's happened with repeat clients actually where we know they're pregnant before their family does because like they're like I'm pregnant again, I want to make sure I have you guys on board. Like
Yeah, awesome.
um,
That feels really nice. Just to
yeah.
know in as quick as possible. So you can hire a doula at any point for your birth. It can be last minute depending on what they have, for availability.
Yeah.
Getting to know your postpartum doulas is great. Start reaching out if you're planning on breastfeeding. Start reaching out to some groups early on, and it's okay. You can be in certain groups while you're pregnant.
Oh
Gather
yeah.
information as early as you can. Hire your lactation consultant. Hire Liz. Um, let her, like, you've been hired when people are pregnant.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I actually love when people hire their lactation care. I mean, I only have experience with it with me, but I love when people hire me when they're still pregnant because first of all, they get actually more support and it's the same price. But basically I do like a prenatal kind of strategy session with them where I'm like, okay, let's do a video call. We sit down and talk about like, what are your questions? Here's what
Yep.
I think you need to know. And then I'm basically on call for them.
Hmm.
And then once their baby arrives, I'm there, I come and do the visit. And it's a lot of fun because we already have that relationship. And I
Yeah.
just think it's so wonderful.
Yeah, because I mean, breastfeeding is stressful for, I'm going to say for most. I'm going to go out and say for
Yeah.
most, it's stressful in the beginning as you're learning about your baby
Yeah.
and how all this goes and what the normal is. Um, so I think it's great to have that person who's going to come into your home and watch you breastfeeding, which I remember when I was a first time breastfeeder, like I didn't want anyone looking at me because I felt like I was doing it all wrong. And like my baby would be on and off and crying. And I was like, oh, like it would have been so nice to have someone who I'd worked with for weeks or months ahead of
Mhm.
time, had built all this trust with, to come into my home and say, like, you know, may I offer you some help? Or, things actually look good. Like, you're doing a great job. Like, um, so I do think that that is a wonderful thing to set up. You can you can look into placenta encapsulation before you give birth. I mean, there's so many different
Yeah.
people getting in touch with chiropractors, acupuncture. Um, we want you to be able to access all of those people while you're pregnant. So
Yeah.
that's why it's great to set up your team ahead of time. Not every care provider knows all the local doulas in the area. Not, it just happens. So you might say, like, oh, I'm interested in hiring a doula. First of all, you can kind of get an idea if they are on board with the whole doula thing, which is really important. And see, like, what resources your care provider has when it comes to doulas and lactation professionals. It'll tell you a lot about the support that you're going to get down the road.
Yeah.
Um, it will.
Uh, And I think it's just, this is all stuff. You don't have to like have the answers to all of this, like a week after you find out you're pregnant.
Yep.
But it's just some things to think about. And like, if you don't know, like, why would I want an acupuncturist, or why would I want, um, a chiropractor during my pregnancy? This is a great time to start doing some research and figure out like, oh, here's some more info about that. Is that something I'm comfortable with? Is that something I'm interested in? You
Mhm.
know, like that, those are really good questions to start asking. And I think that's like the big take home, like in the beginning when you are in early pregnancy, is you want to start asking questions. You know, don't necessarily Google them. Don't
No. Uh,
recommend.
but Liz and I have created this amazing, I mean, Liz built it. All right. I contributed like resources.
You contribute a lot.
But Liz built this website that only our clients get. They have a password and everything, and it's called The Harbor. It is basically your Google machine when you're one of our clients. So if you hire us for birth, postpartum, lactation, if you're in our lifeboat crew, um, if you take birth education with us, you get access to the harbor, and that is your Google machine. If your question does not get answered there, contact us. So that's a big reason for hiring, especially rising tide women, because wherever you are in your pregnancy, you're going to get access to all that information right off the bat. So it's hard to know like what exactly you're going to want. And a lot of people put off a lot of the planning in their pregnancy until right towards the end or that
Yeah.
last trimester. Everybody's like, "Ooh, I better get ready, I better see if I can hire a doula." Do it early on, and then with us, you get a lot more information early on that can
Yeah.
help you all around. This isn't just like a doula doesn't just come in to rub your back while you're having your baby and tell you nice things. Like we got your back the
Yeah.
whole time. My
Yeah.
dog is barking.
I know. I was like, I hear Rosebud.
I know, it's the squirrels. She's howling at the squirrels right now.
Yeah, I get it.
Uh, the other thing I want to touch on is your birth education.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that's really important too. I think a lot of people now, it's funny because I think in the 80s it was like Lamaze was all the rage and everyone took Lamaze classes. It was very like in fashion. And now I feel like people are like, I'll just research on the internet. Like I can figure it out, or like I have, my doctor or my midwife will just coach me through. Um,
Right. And I think people have like the wrong image of Lamaze and birth education.
yes.
It's not all like everybody just sitting around with pillows and doing breathing. I'm sure our Lamaze teachers could definitely set everybody straight. But there are different options when it comes to birth education. And
Mhm.
There are different styles and teaching styles. And even with that, we want you to feel comfortable. You
Yeah.
have hospital education, you have private education, you have small group education, not in a hospital. There are so many different things. And again, like, I'm sure that's overwhelming to some, and they're just going to be
Yeah.
like, oh, I'll just take the hospital course because that's where I'm having the baby. Even if you take your class privately with us in your home, or in a small group setting, say in Norwell at the South Shore Perinatal Wellness Center,
Just for example.
uh, you can still set up a hospital tour.
Yeah.
You know,
And
you can still see the hospital. We can still help you facilitate getting in there and going to see the floor and talking to the nurses. Like it can all happen.
yeah. Yeah. And I think too, like I used to teach hospital birth classes at a hospital I worked at. And, you know, I think there's always this tension between like when you teach at the hospital, you do your best, like you want to do right by your students. You want to tell them everything they need to know. But there's also kind of this tacit pressure to like let them know what to expect from the hospital, and how to be a good hospital patient. And so I think that like I'm a big fan having done both. I've actually taken both types of classes and also taught both types of classes. I'm a big fan of independent instructors because they work for you. Like you are the boss, and so their only duty is to answer your questions and to help you get what you want out of your birth experience. So I just think it's an important distinction. And I'm not knocking hospital birth classes. There are a lot of instructors who work really hard and do amazing things. So it's not a knock, but just to kind of let you know that that exists. It's a thing.
Again, it's another option,
Yes.
and we get it. Hospitals, like, they need to let you know certain things,
Ah,
and that is okay. When you hire private birth educators, you're more in control of what you learn and the environment that you learn in
yeah.
and who's surrounding you, and you are going to get some different information.
Yeah.
Just like if I took some sort of class in one situation or took it with a private tutor, I'm going to get different attention. And we want you to know that when you take a class with us, like, it's fun, it's laid back, it's super educational. We sneak it all in ways that you don't even realize that you're learning about things that probably would have grossed you out before. I mean, we have people whose partners are like, oh, I don't know, birth, like, ew. And then by the end, they're like, wow, so like the placenta, tell me more. And
Yeah.
like Liz and I just go bananas because we're like, okay, like, let's take some time and talk more about this. Or here are some comfort techniques that are really going to
Yeah.
help you. It's really fun when we do your birth doula work and your birth education, because then I know exactly what you've learned
Yeah.
and I can apply it to your birth and draw upon your education and also the things that we've practiced together in class, and that really helps solidify. I do see it a little bit of a difference with, like, sometimes like those that have taken our class and I do their birth work, the connection is that much stronger, and we're touching base on all the cool things that we learned in class.
Yeah.
So that it's not required. It's just a nice layer.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and so just to kind of distill a little bit. So if you are newly pregnant and you're watching this, you're probably like, oh my God. So, you know, our biggest thing that we recommend is thinking about your care provider and your place of birth. Like that, once you get into that, you can switch at any time, but you
Yeah.
also have some time to think about the other things. But I really want to encourage you to start thinking about the birth itself. I think so often we get caught up in this, like in the pregnancy, which is great. Like enjoy the heck out of your pregnancy if that's your thing. Be
Can
Yeah, if you can. Not everyone's is that into that, and that's fine. Um, but like I think a lot of people put off thinking about the birth because they're like, "Ooh, I don't want to go there yet." Um, but I want to push back against that narrative a little bit because part of how if we have any fear around birth, like part of how we get past that is by meeting it. You are going to have to eventually face that. And I want you to have time to do it in a healthy and productive way. You know, like that's really the thing. Don't spend time, perseverating about your worries, but take the time to really think about like, okay, this is my worry. How can I address that? How can I get someone who's going to support me through that, you know?
Mhm.
So really start thinking about your birth experience. Start talking about it with your care provider. So often we have the pregnancy questions and we don't even talk to our care provider about the birth till we hit like 34 weeks. Um,
Right. Right.
I'm not a fan of that model. Like I think we should be talking about this birth experience because that's how you're going to welcome your baby into the world.
That is so right on. However long it takes after you find out that you're pregnant, a week or so, and you've maybe set up some care, like maybe get yourself a nice journal and start jotting down the things you're excited about and the things that you are concerned about. And yes, start getting in touch with your feelings because pregnancy, birth, and postpartum bring out so many feelings. Whether you're
All
a
the
feel
feels.
kind of person or not, that is where you will really truly see your feelings. And you don't have to share that journal with anyone. Let it be a diary and put a lock on it if you want. But I think it is a really good idea to start writing and getting in touch with what's worrying you because if that can be dealt with early on in your pregnancy, guess what? You may enjoy some of it. Maybe some of that morning sickness or that nauseous feeling will start to like lift and go away because maybe it's nerves.
Yeah.
Let's deal with it and help you feel your absolute best. It doesn't mean you are going to be like, oh, I'm going to push a baby out of my vagina or, have a cesarean birth. Like, yay. We
Woo!
are saying that because there's a lot of work and different feelings with all of that.
Yeah.
But we just want to help you get to a place where you can at least be like, yeah, I
Yeah,
gotta
but
have this baby, and I really want great support because that's what's going to help me emotionally and physically get through all of this in a healthy way.
yeah. Yeah, and there's some great resources too. I actually am a big fan of Pam England's book, Birthing from Within. I know Lindsay loves this too.
I just
And it's like a little hippy dippy. So if that's not your thing, it's going to feel a little weird, but I want to encourage you to just stick with it.
go
It's
with it.
good.
It yeah, I completely I completely agree. It is it's awesome. It's written in a way like I feel like you can kind of bounce around a little bit.
Yeah.
There are pictures of cool things in there, not like scary things. Uh, but it's just a neat book to to poke around. See if a friend has a copy. We lend our books out all the time.
Yes.
Well, I have to like keep a list of who has what books of. I actually think I need to kind of wrap you up.
I know. And
Um,
I keep ordering books and then I have like a stack of books to read. It's bad. Um,
yeah, there's a name for that. I just learned the name for that when people buy books and
I
they
saw
have a
that.
stack of books that they haven't read yet, and I love that. I love nothing more
Totally.
than buying books. I have no time to sit and read an actual book unless I'm reading with my kids.
Yeah.
But and so ask around, see if you can borrow a copy of Birthing from Within. It's a
Yeah.
great start to kind of help you. So, some a little birth education tidbit.
Yes.
Um, when you are giving birth, you need to be more in your right side of your brain. That is the creative side, that is the artistic side, that is the side that can like help you let go. We tend to give birth a lot of the time in the left side of the brain, which is logical and numbers and how
Analytical brain.
yeah, and what are those contractions doing and what is the monitor saying? And that is not the land to have your baby in. You can't relax over there. So we need to help you get over to the right side of the brain, and your care provider, your doula, your support people can all help you get there. But that
Yeah.
is a much better, much safer place to have a baby. And I know that kind of sounds a little fruity. We can explain more in your birth education class and also in person.
Yeah.
But birthing from within will really help you to kind of see that side. And it's okay. You don't have to go around telling everybody, oh, I'm reading this book and it's,
Yeah. Like,
talks all about birth art and creativity. Like just just get a copy, take a look, and if some things speak to you, awesome.
yeah. And I love actually this chapter I want to point out in particular is chapter 3, which is called Worry is the Work of Pregnancy. And I love this. We actually talk about this a ton in our Lifeboats program. Because I love it because she talks about like how to worry effectively. So
Yep.
rather than just like feeling that anxiety, like, okay, great. How do we process that? What do we do with it?
Yeah.
And I think that that is like a really great tool to have during early pregnancy, especially because there's so much worry. It's like, before you have kids, before you get pregnant, you think that there's like you have a lot of worry in your life, and then it's like once you get pregnant, I feel like this like bottom opens up and there's just more to worry about. And like and that's normal. It's not like, oh my God, now we have to be riddled with anxiety all the time. Because you don't, but it's like there's more to worry about. And we get this constant messaging that like however much you're panicking, it's not enough, and you need to be panicking about all these things. And we don't want you panicking. So like let's worry effectively, in Pam England's words, like let's process that a little bit. Um, so that you can have your worries but also feel strong.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So I hope that are there any other suggestions you feel that one would need when they find out they're pregnant?
I think have a buddy, the buddy system, but like have someone you can really talk to about all the things. We sort of paint pregnancy as this like constant nonstop bliss ride. And the reality is that like that's a little bit pathological. No part of your life is a constant nonstop bliss fest.
And
Like,
it is, but I don't,
I mean, but that's you.
that's me.
But so I feel like have someone that you can talk to about like that you can just get really real with and talk to about like all the
Yeah.
feels you're having, whether that's even your journal that we talked about. But
Right.
ideally it would be someone who could be like just listen and just hear you.
Right. This person doesn't even need to be in the birth world. Like just someone that won't cut you off or say like, well, this is what you should be doing, or oh, don't worry about that.
Why don't you
We all
just
are, yeah, we know those are unhelpful things. But yeah, find your person. Find your person who, if you say, I'm looking into this birth education or I'm looking into hiring a doula, you want that friend to be like, get out. That is amazing.
great, tell me
What
all about
is
it.
it? Like I don't know what a doula is. Can you tell me more? Oh, really? Like that is a great way to have support. Oh, you're thinking about breastfeeding? Girl, go for it. You know, you want those cheerleaders on your side, or at least the people who are just going to zip it and listen to you. Maybe they don't have any answers or anything to say, but someone who is just going to be like, mm-hmm,
Yeah.
hallelujah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah. And I think too, like, just kind of just do your thing, like make
Yeah.
space for that pregnancy because we live in a world where like we're expected to just carry on as if nothing is different up until our due date, and we don't really have any kind of space in our culture for where to put all the feelings that come with being, growing a human being. Um, and so I think like find your people where you can kind of talk about that and just kind of celebrate it, you know, in meaningful ways. Because I think we celebrate it and I have a lot of thoughts about celebrations around pregnancy, but probably have some unpopular opinions about that. But I think we celebrate it in ways that are maybe not as meaningful as they could be. I'll say that. So,
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's great. I think that's a lot of information.
oh my God.
For people, that's a lot of really good information. So kind of the bullet list is, okay, you're pregnant, care providers, slash birth setting. Those kinds of things are good to think about. And then your birth team, whether it's a doula or you're getting your postpartum, you know, doula situation set up and you're breastfeeding. Um, your birth education, really put thought into that, okay? Like if you don't hire any of the other people, please really consider where you're getting your education.
Yeah.
Um, and it's okay before you sign on, even if it's at a hospital, ask some questions. Don't just
All
like sign over. Please, we encourage you to always be asking questions before you put your name and hand your money to anyone. To anyone. And then yes, finding also you need to get birthing from within and then a good buddy.
yes.
Who we all need a good buddy, right?
I
Everybody needs
know.
a good get a
That's why
buddy.
I have you, Lindsay.
That's why I have you. That's why we have our dogs.
Yes, that too. Mine is like snoring on the couch here.
Oh, Rosie is like howling at squirrels and scratching my windows right now. I'm like, ah.
Oh, well,
So yeah, yeah, I think that's good.
yeah. So if you are looking to connect with us, you can find us at risingtidewomen.com always. Our phone number's on there. You can contact us through the website. We also invite you to join our free Facebook community, which is Rising Tide Women Sisterhood. It's a little awkward phrasing, but it works. We're going to go with it. So it's our free community. So come on in, join us, get some good support there.
Yeah.
Yes, ask questions. And it's like the kindest corner of the internet. I love that group so much. So talk to us about whatever you got questions about. So,
Yes. Love it.
all right. Have a beautiful
All
week, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday.
right. Bye. Thank you.